the Goblin Thought. But unlike all the orcs, elves, witches, living pitch oracles, and amateur film critics of the land, goblins thought differently. When a goblin stands short, looks to the heavens, and screeches with all of its might atop its horde, it's expressing a mix of pure anger and joy in a world not quite made for it. The goblin horde, a pile of goods, trinkets, and such, is a place of greed, yes. But it's the same greed that thrives throughout this land of men and beetles. It's the allowed selfishness that helps us learn and grow, walk and run, screech and scramble. The horde is the goblin's memory. What you see before you may look like trash, but it contains every nook and scratch of a goblin's living and breathing history. Without it, they are reset to factory settings and must start anew. Goblins can survive for a time without a horde, but if they are gone for too long, they tend to forget things. The goal of this game is to experience just a fraction of what it's like to be one of these marvelous misfits, to understand a mind separated and compiled by its own and others' experiences, which might not be as alien as you think. Build your horde with every crook or crevice acting as a neuron firing with life, make allies, and defeat monsters. Or simply exist and witness every frog and toad and firefly that passes by. Be a goblin and look upon your story with pride. Today, you will be accompanying me as I run the tabletop game known as the Goblin Thought. I won't linger on the mechanics and just go through whatever I'm doing that's relevant to do so. But feel free to run this in the background. I'll be typing our goblin's memory on the screen, as our human brains cannot be separated like goblins and are unfortunately wholly within our body. I'll be drawing the loot pile on the right, and captions are provided, but again, you don't need to look on the whole time. If you want to just open up a nice game of Minecraft or whatever you want to do and doodle along, meditate, drift in and out, and flow, whatever you want. It all works. Some touchstones for this game might include a 1,000-year-old vampire, if you've ever played that little journaling game. It's wonderful, I recommend it. There's always Becky Chambers' Monk and Robot series if you want a good book to read. I'm in the middle of the second one right now, so no spoilers. And of course, everything I mentioned will be in the description below. Hope you enjoy as we wander through the forest together. This will be a little bit of a reflective journey as we sketch out our lands and our horde and such. I don't know how long I'll do this for, but we'll take it easy along the way and drift along. I might pause a little bit. I might even pause the video, because as this is a reflective game, I think we can all agree that time without an audience is important for this reflectiveness. To start off, I think we'll put our goblin in a nice little field. There might be a well or something nearby. Meandering brook, some clouds passing. A cowbird taking over another bird's nest. The little mafiosos they are. Hopefully they don't mess with our nest. Our first step is to just see what kind of goblin we are and look at our state of mind. Which just takes drawing 2 cards from the deck here. I won't go into the gameplay specifics too heavily, we'll just move along as we do. I drew the King of Hearts and the 10 of Spades. King of Hearts being the trait chaotic, and the 10 of Spades being empathetic. So let me write that here, empathetic. And chaotic, and I gotta choose one that's positive and one that's negative. Now, any of these traits we can dive into too much, you know, we can express them a bit more than others would like, or a bit more than we would like. And others, aren't so bad as they might seem. So, maybe a bit too empathetic, right? Maybe they are. And that could be our negative, and chaotic can be positive, Being able to adapt, be able to move around with everything that's changing around. Being able to just go with the flow, even if you disrupt your surroundings a little bit, which is allowed. Why not, You might jump into somebody else's day as long as you don't take it up wholly and fully. We don't have any relationships yet. Our little ace goblins just gotta meet some people out there. Nothing more than platonic, but they can still be deep. They can still be thorough, caring. And again, we're just starting a nice field. We don't know what's nearby. We need to think, what is going to be the first object in our hoard? Our hoard is our brain, our goblin's thought. Every item is in one of their memories, and if they lose an item, they lose their memory. If they gain it back, it might be a little different. But first, we need that first core. That's something that tells us this is our goblin's motivation. This is why they hoard. This is their spark. Motivations might change, I don't believe we all have one purpose, but we might have different sparks, things that draw us to different disciplines. Little games, little shows, hobbies, moments, movements. And that can get us going. I'm hopeful that you all this morning, afternoon, evening can find just a spark in your day. So, how about we make this easy on ourselves? We just start with a nice stone, a humble little rock here. We'll just draw a little rock into our scenery. Our landmark, our cairn that we're starting our day with. And I think this rock tells us that our goblin can be mobile, can change. Rocks aren't separated from that cycle as us, but for right now, they feel sturdy, they feel where they are. They don't have any other memories to hold off of, so they have a rock to keep them here, to keep them present. A rock can be shaped like any other statue. Alright. We have our goblin, we have the start of our horde. Now we can begin the turns. So, I'll draw a card from our deck. I'll put these two little motivation cards back in the middle somewhere so we don't exile the prompts that come along. And I got the 6 of spades. Now the first turn will always be a positive memory. We're starting out with, good eyes towards the world. And I gotta find out where we want to be looking. So do we want to be looking outward or inward? Now this is built to be a solo tabletop game, but it can be multiplayer. There is another deck called Bayou if you want to have more multiplayer interactions. Maybe we'll have some more people on, and if I do more episodes, but for now it's me, and I think a good place to start is to look inward, Outward lets us look into the world, grow, gain from our surroundings. Inward also lets us grow too. But I think it's important starting the day not looking at your phone, even though I'm always doing such, but just taking a moment to reflect and think about what you want out of the day, what your goal is. And that you might not always get it. That's okay. It might change, but for now, let's start somewhere. So I got this 6 of spades and I'm looking inward, and my prompt is an item in my possession. Oh, what am I doing? I completely forgot to roll my dice too. That's part of it as well. But I rolled a 3. Only 1s and 6s matter, so we'll push that aside for now. But for our prompt, an item in your possession seems to push you towards a specific location. Before you go, what do you learn about your past? So this could be either my rock right now, and maybe I put the memory into a different item for today. Or maybe I find something new and this is what pushes me towards a specific location. So I think I'm gonna find an item. Let me think, maybe by our web here is a nice little abandoned spider web. Let me draw that into our board here. Just draw a nice, I'm not going to focus too hard on my art. We're not painting the Mona Lisa. Just a nice little abandoned spider web there. Maybe it's a little transparent. And needs to somehow push us outward. And I think this is a great way to start the game here. I think it's good to think about what's going to push us outward into the world. Today, our goblin's just exploring its surroundings, seeing what's around it, learning about its new home. I'm sure many of us have moved from different places to different places. For me, tabletop games like Dungeons & Dragons and Flying Circus and such always helps me connect to somewhere new. Even from Boston to Virginia to Ecuador to wherever. Sorry if I'm tugging on my mic there. I don't do this for a living, so I haven't paid much into or Blue Yeti microphones and such. But anywhere I've gone to, I've always found tabletop games are a good way to connect and find my own little community. Even when I didn't speak a language well, I can get a D&D group going. We can things get lost in translation. It can be difficult at random points, but we move on from that. We accept it, we allow for it, we give it the space, and we keep moving forward. And I had some good vampiric games down in Quito. Those were really fun. They all bought me pizza at the end. And the people I went with on those journeys, I weren't very close with, but the people who I found, they were pretty fantastic. I don't stay in touch with many of them these days, but hey, Rob, if you're out here, hello. So I think the spider webs, I'd say it's abandoned. I think the spiders moved on to other grasses, and this just tells me there's somewhere to go to. Just like the spider, there's somewhere else to travel to, somewhere else to be, somewhere else to catch flies, to pull away from the mildew in the grass. So I think today, I'm going to talk in first person here in the journal here. This is just the goblin's memory. They don't have a name yet, but we'll find it out. Maybe it's the first thing they saw. We'll call him Rock for now. So Rock's out here. Same. I walked around. Saw the twigs and bundles and the leaves. Spider web tells me there's more to be than right here. Every journal entry will be one sentence long. Something simple, but we're not English majors here. We're just an old goblin. So if we want to use our ellipses or dots or semicolons to extend the sentence however long we need, yeah, we'll do that. And I think that's going to be our turn here. I think that's a lovely start. And moving forward, we have the full 4 of spades. Now that's going to be a lower number than our last card. So it's going to be a negative memory, unfortunately. Negative doesn't mean terrible, doesn't always mean bad. Doesn't mean we don't grow from it, doesn't mean we have to grow from it. It just is what it is. And we're going to be looking outward. So we're going to... Maybe our first jump in outside isn't always the best, but it'll lead us somewhere. When I remember first learning how to swim in college, I had classes when I was little, it just didn't stick. I had to miss a couple classes between the shallow pool and the deep end because I had to get a tattoo. Had to, yeah. And when I came back, we were jumping in the deep end, and so I had to jump, and it wasn't the most pleasant start, but, in the end I could swim. Thanks to the classes, I don't think just throwing a child in the pool. But some people I know were had that fun experience. I don't think that's the way to do it, but this is the way I did it. There were some wonderful swim teachers there. They're very caring. They would tell me, God won't let you drown. You are made of water. You are 70% water. But simultaneously they agreed that with the little body fat on my body, I sunk. My legs sink. I do not float. So I'm not a very religious person, but I think, you know, if you are in a storm, you cannot just wait for the world to save you. So I think I will choose to swim. And on my 4 of spades, I venture towards the local town, but something prevents my entry. Decide what object you must bring with you next time. So, maybe our goblin goes to that town. They're not familiar with it. They don't know how these things work. There's a large gate. There are guards moving through. Little magics exploring. Little fireworks from inside. A festival of, you know, masks of ferrets and you know, wombats, and I don't know why those are the only animals I can think of. There's our little town. Something prevents our entry. What must we bring with us next time? And I think our goblin thinks, you know what? I can't get past this fence. I think they all have these masks. I think I need one as well. And what better to go with our spider web than a spider? So I think in the sticks and trees and garbage and litter and muck and twine, I think our goblin makes his memory today. I think, this doesn't need to be bolded. I'm just going to bold our motivation so we keep that a little bit separate. A spider mask. We make a homemade spider mask. We make this memory, you know, we're out here. Some things come to us, some things go, but we're going to make this one. Wandering into the town. Let's take the mask with me to join the festivities. Now I'm just doing these to summarize. Our goblin will remember the full day with each of these items, but this is the most important moment to them, and it's summarizing. You know, every time we look at a memory, we don't fully dive into everything we think about every item that was there. Maybe if we thought hard, we could bring that up, but we live in summaries. And oh, I forgot to roll the dice for that day too. Okay, it's a 4, thankfully. Again, if we rolled a 1, we might have to lose a memory. If we roll a 6, we'll change an existing one. Well, let's keep moving on. Let's keep moving on. Oh, horrid. Oh, what am I doing? I gotta draw it. I gotta draw the thing. Let's draw our little spider mask. Spiders are wonderful. Clean up crew. For all the mosquitoes and things that jumble into our space. Not of their own fault, but, you know. Something that mosquitoes help a ton to the ecosystem. I would disagree. I met on my hikes through Vermont, doing some trail creep. I met even with some nuclear physicist on one end and a mosquito researcher on the other. Now, she never chose to go into mosquito research. You know, you just get you apply to labs. That's the one you end up in. I guess you're the mosquito person now. And she would show us how they would feed the mosquitoes. Now, you could get a thing of like cow's blood and put a little wrapping over it, something biological, I don't remember exactly, but something for the mosquitoes to pierce and get blood out of. But that can be expensive for a little lab. So sometimes you just gotta take your arm, extend it outward, and put it into the mosquito cage. They're all bred there, so they don't have diseases in them naturally, but they do not provide nutrition to bats, even though they make up a large amount of their diet, I believe, but always feel free to double check me on these things. Anyway, I'm rambling. Our spider mask has us rambling, not knowing everything, but trying our best to use what we do know and make our place. Let's move forward. Let's draw our next card, roll our dice. That's still a 4, so nothing new. We got a joker, so let's extend to our positive memory. It was a negative memory before, only just because, you know, we couldn't get where we wanted. We weren't torn apart by it. If we were, it'd be okay, but we're doing all right. Let's try again. We'll try again today, now that we got our mask. Let's try to get into town again. Our joker, looking outward, is saying we meet a mentor who has no possessions in this world. So as we go into town, maybe the gates open, maybe it's daytime now, maybe at nighttime they close the gates, at daytime the gates are open. And I'm wandering about, hiding around the traffic of the feet and the wheels and the hooves going through. Maybe one of those hooves is a donkey. He's our mentor. I don't know what the leading intelligence around here is. There's a lot of different levels of sentience around. They don't all have to be the same. Humans don't do a lot too unique to themselves, Leaf cutter ants. Cut those leaves so they can farm a fungus. There's some agriculture. There's different kinds of languages out there. You can find... is it parakeets naturally in the wild? I don't know the exact species, but ones that, they know their name. They say their name to others, so, when the dad bird and the baby bird are in the nest, the mom bird might be like, I'm mom, you're dad, I'm mom, hi, I'm mom. And just announcing oneself so it doesn't seem like a predator. And be like, hi mom, I'm dad. And they just repeat that back and forth for a while, just to make sure. Even fashion trends, you'll find orca whales, killer whales, with some fish on their head, and as a little fashion trend went through somewhere and fell away over time. Anyway, we meet a mentor. Maybe our mentor's a donkey. Maybe we get what do we get from this mentor? Maybe we'll just say some wheat. Just a little bundle of wheat from their area, and maybe I just follow this donkey around for the day. Maybe there's a card attached to it, some sort of fisherman selling their wares, but I go along with the donkey and follow them through the day, get to know around the town in a not a minimally dangerous fashion. We don't speak, but we make that, that pleasant eye contact, be like, it's okay, you're here, I'm here. Let's walk around this market together. I'm not sure how much the donkey wants to be there in the first place, but it's okay with where it's at right now. Let me draw our little bundle of wheat into our hoard here. We're gaining a little bit of our pile. It's been a nice 3 days here. I'll just draw it. Maybe it's just like kind of branching over a rock there, telling us, you know what? We're sturdy. We haven't changed a lot, but we're able to move along and roll with it all. And I got my spider mask. I'm sure some glances make their way, but goblins are a common species. They'll move in and out. I'll say, are we following along the mule today? Mules are not the same. Are they the same? I don't think they're the same thing as donkeys, but following along the mule today. I see the town in its little wonders and get my bearing. Very good. So, if I lose this wheat, I'll forget about that day, but hopefully we'll be in town long enough so if we tread the same path, we'll find it in different moments. On to the next card, I suppose. We'll do the King of Spades. My deck's fully shuffled. Rolled a 3. Still just adding on new memories. Nothing too fancy. It's a king is greater than the Joker. And let's look outward one more time before we start reflecting a little bit. And I think it's important to look outward. It's important to look inward. It's important to reflect. But you need something to reflect on. You still need content. You could play as many little tabletop games as you want. To think about your own life, to play these little characters, but it's important to still go out there and have your own adventures, so you have inspiration, You can't make a movie if you haven't seen movies, and sure, we all want to be like, I have the original idea, but there is no original ideas out there. We just take in everything that we have. Matter cannot be created or destroyed, so we just take in the world as it is, and we combine it in new ways, steal little ideas, and that's how we make something new. So, making something new. Let me go out to my outward deck still. I got the King of Spades. Scrolling up, I got a little PDF here, but I got a printed book besides me as well. PDFs, $5, but you can always message me if you have some other circumstance. Be like, hey, could I get a copy? Can't really afford it. I'm like, yeah, no problem, bud. The books, I think are $25. I only get 50 cents off them. I'm not trying to make a profit off these. I'm just trying to put them out into the world. So, King of Spades. How does an ancient knowledge assist you with your chores? So, you know, if I were to place my arm with a prosthetic, it'd still be my arm, just as my heart could be a pacemaker and my head could be a circuit board. So just as there are objects in our horde, I think sometimes our goblin sits in our horde. So maybe I'll draw the goblin ourselves. Put them into here. Now I like a little orange goblin here. Maybe a little yellow, orange, yellow. There's green ones. You might find purple. Ooh, purple could be a good one, but let's stick with orange here. And here's our little goblin. Ooh, little abstraction here. You don't need to draw too in depth. We're just pushing some stuff along in the horde. And ourselves. You know, we are a pattern. Atoms come and go in our body every 7 years or whatever, but we are still here. We are just the pattern that makes us up. The pattern of thought, the pattern of electricity moving through our mind, the pattern of cells that get grown and, you know, apoptosis, programmed cell death, so we don't become cancerous. And in seeing ourselves, we have an ancient knowledge. We have something ingrained, some memory in us. Again, rolled a 3, so nothing lost. Assist us with our chores. I think this is how we're staying in being. You know, we got natural responses, natural things that, you know, babies have evolved to be afraid of snakes due to how long our, you know, ancestors have been on this earth. If you go to Madagascar, the lemurs aren't naturally afraid of snakes because they never needed to. They never need to evolve those little time-scoped, you know, fears. Our brain works as a, you know, we have the fear part of our brain, that little lizard brain. Then we have the next part of our brain that handles our emotions and whatnot. And then we have the rest of it out there all scrunchy and wrinkly to maximize its space. And each younger than the last. So we'll have our immediate fear response be like, oh, something happened, or, oh, that's something good, yes. And that'll be our first thought. Then we'll have our emotional, ooh, I should be afraid of that. I should run. I feel sad. I feel worried. All good. You know, they're still part of us. They're not bad, but they're there. They're the response to that stimuli. And then, or maybe, you know, I like this. This is good. I'll stick around here. And then we have the top part of our brain where we got to think downward. We got to think, I need to look at these emotions, be like, should I be afraid right now? Should I be happy with this? I'm going to use my memories. I'll be like, at least tell me not to be, for good or for worse, you know? I think it's always important for us to look down at that, you know? If you want to meditate on that, that's great. Just make sure meditate in relaxing moments just as the stressful ones. Because if you keep meditating when you're stressed, you're just telling your body, when I sit down and do this thing, I should be stressed right now. So take that time to look down at your brain and say, what should I be thinking right now? Because the other parts of our brain have been around a lot longer than that part looking downward. Just like the goblins, we aren't exactly made for the world we created. Doesn't mean the world we created's bad. Just means we need a little bit more understanding. So in ourselves, I think this ancient knowledge for the goblin is that just the chores, you know? Maintenance. We need maintenance on our mind. We need maintenance on the world. We gotta see a doctor. We gotta see a therapist just to, you know, keep the gears turning, right? So, memories of maintenance. Maintenance. I can't spell when I talk. For some reason, whenever I record these type of things, I cannot spell. Memories of maintenance, of how to remove algae growth from our rock, where we can allow it after some time, but right now, we don't want to get hidden in the grass. We don't want to have trouble finding our rock, and, you know, Maybe we don't want the spider web to fade away, so maybe we, you know, position the spider's mask to block it. You know, we don't want our weight to fly away, so maybe it's slightly bundled under the rock. We do our chores for the day, and they're not always the most pleasant thing, but they're what's need to be done. And in practice, you know, you have that momentum. Momentum's the most important thing here. You want to do something, but you got to start it first, even if you don't want to do it, and get that momentum to dive through. And that's gonna be our day. It's a positive day. I think it's a good day. You know, chores for this, you know, they can be a time to reflect, but they can just be a time to get something done as well. I got the 9 of clubs. Let's look inward with that. We've done our chores. We're remembering a little bit about our history. So let's look inward for the time that we have together. The 9 of clubs. Earlier this day, you disrupted a peaceful moment. What now? Now here is a negative moment. Hit the mic. Now is a negative moment. You know, we went from king to 9. It's a lower number. So I want to note though, this game is largely about having a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset means I can't play guitar. Growth mindset means yet. I can't play guitar yet. So with that, we have our experience now. Earlier this day, we disrupted a peaceful moment. What now? Now for this instance, is a negative memory, but it doesn't have to be. It can be positive, you know? You actually fall into somebody and you're like, oh, sorry, but you can make a friend. Or maybe you just fall into somebody and you're just sorry, you know? That's okay. But with that, we do disrupt a peaceful moment. What now? And I think in our forest, we're looking inward, so I think we're just sticking by our horde today. You know, doing more of those chores, doing more of that maintenance. And, oh, let me roll the dice to see if we lose anything. Oh, a 6, okay, so looking inward with a 6 is a bit different. So, let me scroll, let's be clear about all this. I put this game together, but I don't always remember every little thing in it. So if I roll a 6, that's going to change an existing item. If I'm looking inward, that means the added detail will originate from the past. So every scratch, notch, bite, and conjured curse holds a story within it. We answer the turn's prompt from the perspective of another being who once interacted with the item. As your goblin discovers this detail, they will absorb the memory and believe it to be their own experience. So what that means is I'm going to choose one of these items here. I'm going to add another prompt to it. This is a prompt that's going to be from somebody else's experience from the past who accidentally disrupted a peaceful moment while having this item nearby. And we think that happened to us. You know, a goblin's memory, just like our own, is not that infallible. So let's see. Wonder where we got that spider mask in the first. Or no what? No. Let's talk about our spider here. Let's say our spider, you know, disrupted a peaceful moment. They were building a web by this rock. You might hear a yell as something jumps away. You might hear the beetles not be able to tread through the web and having to turn and use excess energy. You might find the fly doesn't like being caught in the web. Now, the spider's not being needless, you know, it's not making a web covering the forest, but it's having a footprint. Footprints are okay. We allow for those. Maybe it's not making the it's, you know, if the beetles are going around it, it's not going to tread in that path. It'll keep the spider web away from that. But I think it's allowed to be, you know, just as I don't want to, you know, hit somebody on the street. I'm just as wonderful as that person could be, so I don't want to be hit on the street as well. So we're all allowed our footprints. But this is negative memory. So in the spider web, I remember seeing those traveling around. Those that aren't supposed to be caught in my web. And larger beings presenting fear. So I will find other spaces. So our goblin thinks that this happened to us, so maybe this is whatever we're doing in our chores during the day. We look at the spider web a bit deeper and we're like, yeah, I remember being somewhere else. I remember being behind large boulders. And I guess I had a web, but I needed to find another space. So I found this nice clearing. I found a smaller, less intimidating rock. And here I am, doing my thing. Still having my space, but intruding a little bit less, and that's good. Now it's negative because we don't like to move. I don't like having to put all my things in boxes and remember each of those little memories for good and bad. I don't like having to pull up the truck. I don't like having to, I had to leave Boston at one point. It was the last day of my lease, but there was a hurricane going on the next day and later that night, so I couldn't, plans had to be changed. I had to jump in the back of the van, put my mattress in there and jump out of there. I inconvenienced some people. My landlord got mad that I didn't take the AC with me for some reason. But that's all I could do for that day, I'm not just gonna leave the AC on the street uselessly, ruin the thing. Someone else could use that just fine. But I had to think about my own health in that moment too, Oh, moving forward. Let's roll our dice. Off the table rolls don't count, that's a 2. We're going back up to the Jack of Clubs. Was I in the right? Did I say spades before? It was a 9 of clubs before. I might have made a mistake, but that's okay. We're moving forward. And today is just about establishing ourselves. Telling our little stories, being who we are. I want you all right now to just think about, how do you establish yourselves when you're somewhere new? Let me know too. If you so feel free to share the stories, change details as need be. But how do you establish yourself somewhere new? What's a moment where you had to change places and just be there, be a stranger, be the outsider? I want everyone here to know outsiders are welcome. So I think, how about this? Feel free to, if you make any games, if you have anything to share, your own or otherwise, feel free to share them down there. Everyone's so mad about these big capitalist corporations, doing their thing, justly so, but they get also mad when the little guy tries to advertise their thing. Now, I want to get, especially when they're not part of their community, they're not part of this place to share, which makes sense. You want to, there's an exchange here. You want to be a part of it just as much as you allow it to be part of you, but we shouldn't absolutely put up complete walls and let the strangers in alone. So share what you have. Let's talk about it. Let me know if any stories that you make, any games, any movies, any books that you make, take pieces of yourself for when you're going somewhere new, when you're traveling out here in our little field. And we have the Jack of Clubs. Looking outward, I think I'm right. You know what? We haven't had a lot of much danger to reflect upon. We could still reflect upon our chores and look into our past, but we're somewhere new. It's about finding out what's around us. So we have to trick a creature to help us with a small problem. Trick. Now, this is a good memory. Trick doesn't always have to be nasty. White lies, just saying. If you're teaching somebody, like a student to, be more sure of themselves. Maybe you ask a little bit of leading questions. Maybe you see, oh, that person needs help there. What are we going to do? They take the lead and go help them. That's all good. A trick. This is a trick. We're tricking a creature to help me with a small problem. What's a problem that we have? Why do we need to do this? Maybe some larger giants. Maybe I'll put a silhouette in our background to help remind us here. Maybe some larger giants might pass through these parts a little bit. I don't know if anyone watches Hilda here, a wonderful cartoon and graphic novel. I think it used to be I'm just going off memory here, so, memories are fallible. I I believe that it just was a graphic novel series, but Pendleton Ward, guy who made Adventure Time, likes to lift other artists up and brought them on to his cartoon, and now they got to branch off to their own. And in it, there's these large creatures of all that. Don't really notice the little guys. Don't really notice the spiders down here. So maybe they're out there taking their footprints, not always knowing the full footprint they have. I'm just doodling here. I don't have a lot of thoughts of what I'm trying to make out of it. Something that's, not unnatural. I've been here longer than my goblin, but something a little different than the environment here. Maybe we have to trick them. Maybe they're coming towards us, gonna stomp on our zone a little bit here, leaving some footprints. Let's say maybe, how do we trick a giant? How do we trick a giant? Maybe I run to a nearby a hill, cast a shadow, also big and large, of something of interest, to pique its interest, so to direct it in that direction. So I had a bit of a journey today. It was a good journey, I'm like, oof, a challenge. Let's run up that hill. Let's get to the top. Let's assemble some things together. Use what's around me, some vines, an old caravan and wheels to make a little shadow of another beastie out there, and light a fire to cast it out onto the land and bridge this thing that way. And maybe with it, I take a little wheel from that wagon with me, I keep most of it up there in case I need to do it again, but I can always bring a wagon wheel. That's not the hardest thing. Let's draw our little wagon wheel out here. We haven't lost anything yet, so that's good, Things come and go, but we don't always want them to. Draw on the right layer. Just a little wagon wheel sitting in the grass with us, casting its shadows. Yeah, that's good enough. And let's write that down. Wagon wheel distracted the tall golems and beasties from stepping on my horde. As today, I don't feel like starting new. I tread on to the mountain, light fires, be wonderful. So, you know what? I want to do a reflection round next turn because I want to kind of look into what we have here and think about what do I have going? Who am I right now? So let's the next day. Let's look inward. Let's swap it about. It's a negative memory, but that's okay. We got a 3 of spades. Roll the dice. We need a lot of spades and clubs. I swear this is a very shuffled deck. 3, so not losing anything, not gaining. Thank you all for joining me on this pleasant voyage. Now, reflection's not just good for me, but in case any of you are tuning in and out, I want to make sure you know where we are, what we're doing. Our goblin has formed... Oh wait, I'm in the Bayou one. That's in the wrong oracle. You had a long day of being chased and thrown, fitting for a negative memory. How do you relax? So, maybe I was out at the town being tumbled around trying to find the mule, but, wheelbarrows and more dangerous things along a path I thought was clear was not. And I got scratched, I got scarred. That's okay. I'm coming out. Not a good day. Maybe it was like real life, have a long day of work. Stressed out. Maybe someone was not as understanding. Maybe I wasn't as understanding and I feel bad, or I don't feel bad because it's a long day. How am I going to relax here? Let's think about who we are. We are somebody who Changes when needed, but for right now we're keeping in the present. We have a rock. Did I roll? I forget if I rolled, but I rolled a 3. So I think that's what I rolled last anyway, so it's all good. Our spider web tells us that, you know, there is more than here, and I've had to move before. I've wandered into town and joined the festivities, but I get tumbled along with that. I followed the mule and got my bearings, so I'm still a stranger to these lands, but I know it a little bit. I know how to maintain myself and use my past experiences to keep myself afloat here in this ocean of grass and leaf and stick and string caterpillars swinging about. And there are larger things than me here, so I'm doing all right. I don't. Oh wait, no, there was a wagon. That's what. Okay, 3. How do I relax? Maybe I say I don't need to move. I don't need to set fires. I don't need to run through town. I already did all that today. I put in my dues. I'm just gonna watch. I just want to lay here in the sun. Take a deep breath. Allow it to be chilly. It's chilly. I'm a little cold. I'll go under my wagon wheel, letting the sunlight in, but little blockage from the wind. But I take in the light. So I think first, before I do anything, I'm going to add some sunbeams into the drawing here to remind ourselves to be relaxed. So maybe they're just in our image here. This is our little mind palettes. It's not exactly representative of the present. Some things get moved around. I don't think that big thing on the horizon is still here, but maybe it'll help us in our mind represent the light rays kind of passing by through the clouds and everything. Maybe I'll add a little rays thing here. A little less opacity just to let the light rays fade off. There we go. This game we can, draw with a pencil, draw up here, do our thing. And how do we relax? Well, we lay in the sun, in the grass. So maybe some of the grass, I'd say some of the grass around us can be added to our little horde. We're recognizing more of the zone or horde, the border our horde is taking up here. So we have some grass popping up. Maybe there's a couple little small wildflowers. I want to remind everyone, if you see dandelions in your yard, if you have one, don't mow them down right away as spring starts, because that is a great early pollinator plant for the bees and other pollinators too. We don't just have the bees, but it's a great pollinator plant to get them fed while they wake up. So if you want to get the dandelions out of there, just wait till like just before, when they're no longer yellow and turning into that white fluffy bit. Just in that middle zone, then you can pull them up, or wait till other flowers start jumping up so there's other pollination sources, If you go to the wildlife, let's take a little aside here. Wildlifecenter.org or wildlifecenter.org/ was it pollen? Yeah. A while back for an old job, I put together these little bingo cards for different states. They're ideally, I'm not perfect. They're ideally different pollinator plants that are commercially available and native to each of the states as mentioned here. They're based off government data, well checked with local communities, different flower shops and even subreddits and nonsense. And, try my best to make sure they're available nearby, but maybe, I don't know if one of these suddenly, I don't know anything about woodland, pink root, maybe that's not available near you, but there's no longer any giveaways happening, all this stuff down here. But if you want to grow some local flowers and win some bingo, feel free. But past my little agenda, I don't know how long it's been, but I think this was a good amount of time here. I think we have our goblin established. I think maybe next time we've done some reflecting on who we are. How many days do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's do one more and make it a good solid week in the field. Okay. So I got, oh my god, so many blue cards, or I guess black cards, depending on the type of deck you got. I got the Jack of Spades. And if we have reflected, we know who we are. Let's look outward. We know part of who we are. We don't know our past. Maybe we had another horde just past that mountain that we forgot about. Oh, but we're here. We take the remnants that we take. And we go to the Joker. Joker. Not Joker, Jack of Spades. A Scrabble with wildlife has left you fending for life in a jagged crack. Lose an item or lose a limb. Now, for goblins, maybe you, maybe others, losing a limb, not the worst thing. That could be replaced. But losing a memory, I don't know if that could be replaced. So I'm gonna go with losing a limb. I'm gonna allow for that. Maybe, now what is interesting here is last time we had a 3 and now we have a Jack. So this is a positive memory. Positive memory where we lost something, a part of us, close to us, always with us before. Fending for life in a jagged crack, that doesn't sound pleasant at all. I don't think that part of the memory is positive, but maybe what come after can be a little negative. We don't have to accept that a bad thing was good in some way every time. Maybe sometimes, yeah. Maybe a bad thing is a bad thing, but what came after could be good. So maybe I got a better arm. I went back to that wagon in the mountain. I don't want to think about, I'm going to block out that bit before. Maybe we'll encounter it again in the future, being in the mountain with vultures and things that came after my goblin, and I had to hide and clamor, and I found myself back at the cart that helped me protect myself from that larger being, you know? Maybe I don't have a replacement for that limb yet, but oh, let me roll my dice. Maybe we change. No, it's a 2. Okay. We didn't lose an item today. Maybe we'll have to do that next time. So people know. If I were to lose an item, just for hypothetical, I'd still gain an item, gain a new memory every day. We're answering a prompt. But if I were to gain a memory here, lose a memory here, I would just, on my drawing, I would X that out. Put a nice, not erase. Because guess what? Just because you lose a memory doesn't mean that empty space isn't still there. And I would just, I would cross this out. There's different ways the guide tells us we can cross these out, but we're working on Google Docs, so it's easy to just be like, boop, I'll make it red. Be like, we forgot that. And if I happen to find it again, I would bring it back or rewrite it again, but what you have to do is change one of the words. Because memory, every time we remember something, we change it slightly. Memory's not perfect. Entropy happens. So I would change one of these words. It wouldn't change the reality, but it would change my memory of it. And then we'll just have the item again. We'll find it. And there's other things for if you find a memory without ever doing it before. To find an object, you just have an adjacent card. If I had a 3 and I get a 4 or a 2, that would be finding something. But moving forward, our final card, our final one, is this moment of being afraid. Being afraid in our mountains, right here by something that once protected us. And I think we'll take some roofing. We'll take part of this cart back with us down the mountain. And maybe it's not always a big easy beastie on the horizon that we can fight. Maybe there's stuff down here that we can't even see that's fighting us a little bit. So maybe we take some old bits of wood. And And we just tie it all together with some rope and string. Some of the spider web, some of our past experience. And we give ourselves a little shelter. A little burrow. Even if it doesn't protect us greatly from the elements. It can protect us mentally a little bit too. I'll leave the wheel out of the tent a little bit so the sunlight can still hit us there. And for our final day, let's add that here. Planks of wood. I'm gonna say I scrambled for the life of me. Oh, let's update our objects too. We can always update stuff even if they're not inherent to the object changing. I'll leave it a little bit there. Again, memories, phantom limb or whatever, but memories can still linger. Ooh. Is that gonna affect this one? Oh, lock. Lost. Maybe we forgot how to protect the spider web a little bit. And maybe we forget about those larger than us presenting fear, but that's okay. Again, I didn't roll a 1, but I lost part of myself where I carried a memory, and that part of it carried its own connection to the protecting the spider web, which I already mentioned was being a little bit used, so we lose a little bit of that. That's how, doesn't always have to be the main mechanic. Scrambled for life, put together, shelter. And is this good memory? I am good down here. I am doing well. Now, we'll avoid the mountains for a while. Return there when I feel up to it. So, we'll let that leave us off for today. I hope you all return, or maybe I hope I return to this little series when I feel like it. All the links are in the description as you need for whatever I reference, whatever we get through. And yeah, I hope you all can find your next thing to listen to for whatever hobby, flow, doodle that you do today. And I'm gonna just leave a small note here, Jack, just so I know coming back if tomorrow should be a positive or a negative memory. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.